don't edit these things anyway. But without further, we'll just get this thing rolling, dude. How are you today?
I'm good, dude. It's been a pretty interesting morning. I blew through any alarm I had this morning because I ended up not sleeping getting to bed very early last night.
You don't
And
ever go
then,
to bed early.
well, it's getting better. I'm less in the threes and now in the ones normally. And but then I had a meeting this morning, like with my CPA and all that, and then had a meeting with my some of my team, and now we're here. So,
Nice.
bah,
Kind
bah,
of a
bah, bah.
chill day.
That's right.
I I went to bed late because my damn Broncos just give me a panic attack every single.
What's late for you? Like 9:30?
I got home at 11:30.
Wow. So it's an
Yeah.
early. Interesting.
That's so late for me. Usually I'm
It's
in bed
Papa.
like 9. Like I've even moved back. I used to be in bed. Me and Hannah used to go to bed like 8:30. Now it's like
It's
9:30.
still daylight, damn it. Like the sun hasn't gone down yet.
It's fall, dude. I don't know what you're talking about. Colorado, it's dark at 7, you know.
Okay. Okay.
But I'm happy to hear that you're actually getting a little bit more sleep.
I'm
You
trying.
crazy person not sleeping on a regular basis. But you know what? You got a lot of shit going on, which is why I love getting to talk to you on a regular basis. And like we said, we're just gonna fucking hit record and see what happens. So I'm probably gonna introduce you, but everyone who's listening into this point where it's just a bit random, this is my good buddy Jared. The
What's up?
real Jared Hamilton. And I'm gonna be very candid. I have my own personal coach, but I'm very fortunate to call Jared my friend, and also like a he's definitely a mentor. He helps me out a lot especially when I'm having my anxiety breakdowns. But more importantly, he's a fucking great dude, and I look up to him a lot. And when I asked him to do my podcast, well, actually, before I even said that, I was just talking about my podcast. He's like, "When am I coming on your show?" I was like, What are you doing tomorrow?" And now we're here, man.
We were literally just FaceTiming bullshitting last night. And he's like, fuck it, let's just do it tomorrow. So I'm
Yeah,
like,
fuck it, we'll
done.
do it live.
That's right. I
And
love it.
I'm really excited. A lot of people who are gonna hear this, they've been listening to my stuff for a little while. I, I'm gonna do a terrible job at introducing you, but I'm probably just gonna fill in the gaps because this dude's amazing. So Jared, who are you? Why do people have to listen to you? Because you're amazing. And yeah, let's start there.
I do a terrible job introing me because I think intros, like I can intro the fuck out of somebody else, like Superman the hell out of them. I always find introing myself is really awkward. So but I will do my best. So
Hashtag
for
relatable.
right, it's just like, yeah, tell me how awesome you are. Like it's like, oh, I don't like this. Anyway, let's just call out that elephant in the room right now. But my name is Jared Hamilton. I am 31 years old on Friday, and I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I am from Indiana over here in the good old Midwest, so I say "ope" a lot. And basically, my cool party trick is I help people never struggle losing weight ever again. That's my big thing. But my one superpower is making everything simple as fuck because I am not that traditionally smart. So for me to be able to grasp something, I have to like dumb it down to like Jared level, but then it makes it really easy to teach and make it really applicable. It's because simple scales and fancy fails. And there's really no need to ever make things complicated in my book. If something's complicated, then you don't know it well enough to teach it simply. So that's what we do inside weight loss. And like my big thing is because the thing that stops most people from getting to where they want to be in the world of weight loss, my thing is not weight loss. It's the stuff that is your bottleneck. Is it almost on the surface seems like it's eating too much and moving too little, but it's actually all this under the surface stuff. Like a question I like to ask a lot of people is, if I could just snap my fingers right now and the 50 pounds comes off, like, would you be good? And for most people the answer is no, because they're binge eating. They know they sabotage and gain it all back. Their relationship with food is terrible. They're self-deprecative. They have inner child issues as it relates to weight loss because what mom told them when they were 6, like all these other issues. So my thing is like, let's do what I call dieting from the inside out and fix that shit first and let weight loss kind of do its own thing and kind of takes care of itself. That's my cool party trick. So that's kind of Jared in a nutshell. Other than I'm a blue belt in jujitsu. I have 3 dogs. I married my high school sweetheart, and I'm a 220-pound 6-year-old. So
6-year-old being he's barely 5 foot tall.
And mentally, like if Jonah, if you whip out a penis joke right now, I will laugh my face off. Like
I'm pretty sure if we just like did like the penis vagina game, it'd probably just be a hoot and holler the
I
whole
think we
damn time.
should.
No, not right now, because there's a lot of good things that you pulled out of. That was a great intro, by the way. Very short, simple, and if it sounds like
It's like me, short and simple. Literally.
exactly, short, simple, and it makes easy. You make things easy to understand. And just to give a little bit of context, I was literally telling you this story last night, but before I even knew who you were, I heard I was talking to, or I was listening to our mutual friend Rico talking about you, about one of your videos, and it was when I was just getting into like making content and putting my face on everything consistently. And he said a story where how you had a viral video blow up, and you added 10,000 people to your email list just from how awesome you were on that video and the great information you gave out. And this was like 6, 7 months before I even knew who you were. And I was
Right.
just like, he just kept saying like, oh, it's my friend Jared, my friend Jared. I was like, who the fuck is Jared?
Mm.
Right. And then I found you before I had met you in person. And this man has a 250,000 followers on TikTok, and just a massive following just spread across his social media. And I was like, oh my God, this is a famous person. Oh shit.
TikTok famous doesn't count.
It's yeah, TikTok's fun and all, but yeah, it has its ups and its downs. But still, like people love the shit that you put out, and it's awesome. And I started consuming everything of yours, and I was like, oh my God. What I've been trying to figure, because I'm still pretty new to coaching, I guess over 3 years now, still considering like the amount of people I've understand and learn from, I'm still new to this, but you are the first person that finally connected the dots for me and what I was trying to say.
Mm.
If that makes sense. It was more like, you speak a lot about the inner game and working from the inside out, right? And that's where the majority of my problems throughout not only my own weight loss journey, but like the vast majority of my life, you know, they were me holding myself back from
Yeah.
accomplishing things but they weren't my own beliefs. They were things I learned from other people that I had accepted.
Sure.
That's why, like, I put so much of my self-worth in performance, because performance equaled love for a long time. And if
Mm-hmm.
I didn't perform well, I was unworthy, I wasn't
Yep.
deserving. But then I also had this like, oh well, if you perform too well, then you always have to hit this high standard. And then I wasn't willing to do that because you're living someone else's dream, because
Mm-hmm.
someone gave you this dream and not you. And there's all these stories that would bleed into then my own fitness journey, and now my coaching career, where it's like this battle of multiple voices in my head, but finding my real voice has been such a challenge. And like
Right.
you said, the bottleneck for most people is what's going on inside their
Yep.
head. It's not the fact that they're lazy pieces of shit. It's their preconceived notions or their misconceptions around weight loss. And then when I met you, having this like, I put you at gave you a god complex in my head, because like, man, this guy, he knows
Put
his
this short
shit.
motherfucker on a tall ass pedestal.
I mean, you have to be on the pedestal, right? I gotta lean down to hug you. When you're on
That's
the
right.
pedestal, we're eye to eye.
Right.
Anyway, like as like I heard you say it, you helped really connect the dots for me of like what I want to communicate, and you made sense for me. I was like, holy crap, like that's Jared Hamilton. And then the first word's like, hey man, what's up? And you're just like this genuinely friendly fucking guy. And that the weekend we met, like everything was going like 1,000 miles a minute, and I only had like a chance to talk to you after I like had that
I
kind of
felt so
emotional.
bad.
Oh, dude, I felt bad too.
My one regret from that weekend is like, fuck, I didn't get to spend any time with Jonah. Like I walked away from that weekend and I'm like, I didn't spend any time with Jonah. I literally was my regret.
Which in my head, like I'm just this like regular Joe Schmo, and like Jared Hamilton's thinking like he wants to hang out with me. But ever since then, it's like I connected with you, and then we met a couple more events, and now I get to have you on my podcast and share all the cool stuff that you've helped, man. And
You've been on my podcast. Tell your listeners to go check that episode
oh
out. You've
yeah,
been on my
I forgot we
podcast.
did that one. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
a fun episode. Yeah. Oh, I'm definitely. I mean, your podcast is called Dieting from the Inside Out,
it
and
is.
if my listeners are paying attention, go listen to his podcast. It's really really good, because it connects the inner game to weight loss. And
Yep.
if you understand your inner game, everything gets so much simpler. You stop
Mhm.
self-sabotaging, right? So I guess me just word vomiting all these things about how much I adore you. How did you start to get connected to the inner game? Like why, what made you transition to that be your party trick?
It was an accident. So there's a couple of sides to it. Number one is it was by I found it by accident with clients, and then I had my own exploration with my own stuff. So there's two sides to it. Number one was like I said, is I accidentally found it. So like I've been coaching people, for those that don't know, for like a decade. I have like a full coaching staff, my coaching company and all this stuff. But what would happen is we would like people would come into our coaching program. This is like, let's say 3-4 years ago, I found this out. Like people would come into the coaching program, they'd apply, get accepted, the whole 9 yards. And then like, we'd be like ready to take them into like doing their thing. Like maybe like, even if we need to like reverse diet to start losing weight, or we can go right into weight loss, whatever happened. But then this one common issue became a thing where we would get started and I'm like, oh shit, Mrs. Jones binge eats. Well, logically, if she does, and in my head, I'm like, logically, if she doesn't quit binge eating, she'll never lose weight. All right, got to fix the binge eating. All right, cool. Now we can go back to weight loss. She's great. Next client, let's say Mrs. Jones is like doing okay and like she's crushing it. And all of a sudden she has identity issues causing her to sabotage. I'm like, fuck, okay, I got to fix her identity, All right, get back to losing weight. She's crushing. And I'm like, okay, let's keep going. Things people whoever, like let's say Karen is doing great, and then all of a sudden Karen's like emotionally eating like crazy. It's like, fuck, okay, well, she doesn't quit emotional eating, she'll never lose weight. Okay, let's get Karen through emotional eating, fix that, then we go back over here to weight loss. And I recognize and I go, wait, this is becoming all too common, where like people aren't like ready for weight loss yet, and all these issues are becoming very, very normal. Like it's the silent majority, if you will. Like everyone's talking about like weight loss and losing weight and fat, all this stuff. And like I love it when I hear coaches talk about like, okay, well, you've been trendy dieting for a decade, your metabolism's fucked, we got to do some like metabolic restoration before we can go into fat loss. And but that, for me, that's just like the tip of the iceberg. Like, yes, we have to make sure your metabolism is in a good place before we can go to lose weight. But then we have like, that picture of like the tip of the iceberg, and it's like, but then you have all this shit underneath it.
Yep.
Well, for me, all that shit underneath it is about a 40-item list of like binge eating, emotional eating, sabotaging food relationships, knowing what to do, but not doing it. Can't be consistent, can't be disciplined, unsustainable habits. Like the laundry list continues, like our lens of lack, or things are never good enough, or worthiness, or inner child as it applies to weight loss. Like we have this massive, massive list of like underneath the surface. And my thing is, if you don't fix that list, weight loss is never going to happen. So I found this gray area by accident, because I would see our clients like, and we would fix it, but it was just not like the big thing we like advertise. It's like, yeah, we get you to lose weight sustainably, done. But now it's like, fuck, everyone binge eats, everyone emotionally eats, everyone self-sabotages, everyone yo-yo diets, everyone knows what to do but doesn't do it. But the problem is that I'm like, no one's like, and I would have like our system for fixing it. Like I have a binge eating system, I have an emotional eating system, I have a sabotage system, I have a food relationship system. Like I have a systematic approach that's proven with every single one of these issues, because you have to handle each of them differently. Now, the problem is I don't see any coach talking about it, and most coaches can't do it. Right. Like it's why like the best advice you hear in the coaching space with like binge eating is like, well, just eat an apple and get your mind off of it. Get the trigger foods out of the house, or like, well, just work harder. Those responses are like you being broke and someone saying, just work more. It's like, well, no shit, Sherlock. But what happens when Mrs. Jones is already working 80 hours a week as a single mom that's married to a piece of shit husband, and you're broke? Well, you can't just say, just work more. Like that's the worst advice ever. But that's in the same category when people are struggling with binge eating, emotional eating, sabotaging, that whole list. And the coach is like, just work harder, just go on a walk, just have an apple, just get the sugar foods out of the house, just hide the scale. Like, okay, let's just ignore all the bullshit. So my thing was, I didn't see anyone teaching this, and I felt this. Then this is where like my own exploration kind of came from. Whereas I started feeling heavy about the coaching space. Like I got really introspective, and I'm in therapy myself. I've been in therapy on my own journey of not suppressing my own shit and me addressing my inner darkness. And I saw how much that transformed my life on the surface, right? Like I'm happier, I make more money, I'm more fulfilled, I help more people, I have better relationships, my communication's better. Like everything in my life changed when I addressed my inner darkness, when I did my inner work. So I'm like, oh shit, this scales to everything. So that was kind of like the realization I found in coaching, my own exploration. But then for anyone that's done some self exploration, When you start to do that, you start to become really sensitive to what feels heavy and light in your life. Well, ironically, the coaching space and what I'd been teaching and how I'd been doing my thing had started to feel heavy. And what started to feel light and more fulfilling is teaching this middle ground of inner game as it applies to weight loss because of my own journey outside over here. So, but that's when I was like, fuck, no one's teaching this. So I got like in my own head, I'm like, damn it, no one's teaching this. Everyone's going to think I'm out of my own lane. And I don't even know if this is going to work because I still got to build a business and all this. But then at the same time, I'm like, shit, no one's teaching this. I'm like, so I have no competition from like a business sense, right? Like I get all these other coaches bringing me in to speak to their communities or speak to their groups or all these stuff where like, they don't like, I get coaches all the time that are like, dude, we don't know how to teach someone how to not emotionally eat. Where do you start with that? So it's like, now I feel like I'm kind of leading the front, not to sound egotistical, but like, I don't know many coaches who are like their whole program's predicated around this. So I almost feel like on a level, I'm like leading the front with a lot of that, which is kind of cool, but it's the most fulfilling thing because now we're seeing clients with permanent change, truly. Right. You can get someone to lose weight, but like most people are going to gain it back in 8 months. But when I get someone who's binge eating for the past decade and not binge anymore in 3 months, or when I get someone who's like terrified of fucking food and in a couple weeks, I got them eating their favorite foods without a second thought. Like that's the shit that changes someone's life. And then weight loss is honestly just happens on its own. So that's kind of like the long-winded answer of how I kind of got here.
No, dude, I love it. It's perfect. And I would agree with you, not to be an egotistical thing, but like, yeah, I think you are leading from the front. And like I said, when I heard you speak, I was like, this is exactly what I need to be saying because this is the exact process that I had to go through. If I found success on both sides of weight loss, weight gain, it was extremes, extreme restriction or extreme gorging to see results, right? Gain 40 pounds in 3 months to perform better. Funny thing was, I didn't know how to actually manage that. Right. And my perform was super shitty. I was eating so much food. My sleep was crap. My digestion was crap. My stress was crap. Like I felt awful, but I gained 40 pounds. Can I play college? Can I play professional football now? Yay.
Right.
Nope. Then I struggled to lose that 40 pounds because I wasn't training as hard as I was. I was still basically eating the same. I didn't know what a goddamn calorie was, and then I figured out what macros were. And I was like, oh, this is the one thing, right? Got super restricted. This is before I got certified nutrition. Got super restrictive, hit my macros to a T, spent like $300 on supplements a month, to get all this. But then I started being fearful of food. And not only that, like I was like I was building this cocoon to just look good, right? I was also dealing with a lot of my own inner dialogue, my own inner struggles of like, you're not good enough, tearing myself down, like you'll never look the way you want. You won't be able to keep this. This isn't who you are. You're just the person who just kind of hides in the back, right. And you're not allowed to step up to these things. And I was like, who the fuck is talking? Like I would get really low even though I was in the best shape of my life after I lost all the weight. But again, I didn't feel great. My sex drive was super low. I was scared to eat I couldn't eat carbs on my honeymoon, And
wow.
it was fucking terrifying. Yeah, I did all of this to myself. And I got back from my honeymoon. I was like, I don't want to live like this. I
want a second honeymoon.
Yeah, I honestly, every vacation Hannah and I go on, we're always on honeymoon just so we get a little bit like an extra dessert or a free drink,
100%,
but still.
Bro. Bottle of champagne, absolutely.
Hell yeah. But yeah, and then after I came out of that, I declared like, this is not the way I want to live my life. And that's when I started to really dive into the full aspect because I was still a personal trainer, right? I had no mindset coaching. I had no nutrition coaching. I had now finally seen the full extent of what the physical can be done with the nutrition and the mental relationship you have with it. And once they're all connected, that's the true freedom, right? If you just rely on one to fucking fill in the gaps for the others, you're building yourself another box of restriction or emotional disgruntlement, if that's even a word, right? Sure. And as I started to figure that out, and I started coaching online and expanding my program, I was like coaching these people, and as they were coming up with these mental blocks, these mental barriers, I was like, hey, we need to pause on the physical right now. Like, let's
Yeah,
address
100%.
this. Let's address this. But that wasn't what I was like when I was trying to communicate that in like marketing and getting clients, that's not what they signed on for. They signed on
Right.
for workouts, they signed on for macros. And I was like, but we're not going to see the results that you truly want.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that. It's this band-aid on a gushing wound,
Yeah,
right?
for
We're not
sure.
actually addressing the root cause, which as I've had to understand that with your help, you made it so easy to understand. I was like, oh, that's where the gaps is. That's where the
Yeah,
gaps are. And I feel like I've made so many different shifts in that because I've struggled to really communicate how you need to feel better first, and
sure.
weight loss becomes a byproduct of that. And now
Absolutely.
and because of that, I have so much more confidence in how I show up for other
Yeah.
people because of you, right? And I learned from you, and I feel great by that. And I told you this yesterday. Like if I could plot out my career path, like my career journey, I want to follow you.
Well, I appreciate that.
And so with all that being said, and helping others realize like, okay, address the big issues first and weight loss becomes a byproduct, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you systemize, how did you systemize these complex emotional barriers
Yeah.
for people?
This is what my book is going to be about, probably. So
Ooh, that's exciting.
well, here's so on my list is, it's not like super high on the priority list, but right, I'm going to be writing a book on this. It's probably going to be a dieting from the inside out, like everything
Yeah.
else I touch. But because a lot of people will ask me, they'll say, Jared, like, where do I go to learn this stuff? Like, what books can I read about what you're teaching? And my thing is like, I don't know of any, because it's basically what I've taken from psychology, neuroscience, habits building in general mixed with weight loss, and I like made the parallels. Like
Yeah.
you remember like those, like not like in the same, like not a crossword puzzle, but like when we were kids, like it's like you have like this list on the left, list on the right, and you have to like, pull this one over here and this one goes here and like
Yeah.
this suffix here, whatever. That's what I did. Like, not to like say like, I mean, it's basically my thing was like, fuck, okay, here's because if I don't know if a video is being published with this or not, but if you're watching the video or half of my videos, I have this bookshelf behind me, and I'm massively into this world of psychology, personal development, headspace, inner game, all that stuff. So I have like all the knowledge over here with fitness nutrition, and I have all this knowledge over here of neuroscience, psychology, and habit building and things like that. And I basically drew the parallels. It's like, okay, because I was actually on a podcast one time, and the gentleman, because I told him, he's like, so how do you stop binge eating, Jared? I go, oh, here's how. And he goes, that's profound. And he goes, who taught you that? And I go, like, no one. Like, I know this. I from neuroscience and psychology and like neuroplasticity. I understand this about the mind. And because binge eating, half of binge eating is a headspace thing, is,
Yeah.
and then I know this about nutrition. So, and nutrition coaching. So I basically brought these two worlds together, and then it can change someone in literally like 30 days. Like it's why like we'll take someone who's like binge eating for a decade. I actually had someone, just a client of ours, just comment on one of my lives. She's like, I binge ate for 2 decades. In a matter of 2 weeks, I stopped. Like, because it's not a matter of more time, it's more awareness. And it's some psychology things. Like it's a neuroplasticity, neuropathway thing with your brain. So I've got like all these little psychology hacks that we teach. It's like kind of like our IP or our methodology. It's what I call the dieting from the inside out ideology. So that's what we do inside coaching and in like my coursework and like all these kind of things into my content and stuff. But basically how I came up with like that and systemizing it is you have to treat all these separately. Like I had someone, I've had, I had a mentor of mine. I basically put all these in like a course. Like I have like a course I'll sell on this, and he's like, and I'm like, I don't know what to name the course or what to say. He's like, well, what's the outcome of the course? I'm like, every one of these things has a different outcome. Like there's 4 reasons for binge eating. We have emotional eating here, this, inner child here. He's like, what's the outcome? And I'm like, there's like 40 outcomes, because like the outcome for binge eating, the outcome for food relationships, the outcome for emotional eating, the outcome for knowing what to do but not doing it, the outcome for sabotage. So then he's like, okay, then what's the big underlying outcome? And for me, that's never struggle losing weight ever again. So that's like my big thing. It's like, it's my party trick. But like that's what it is I treat this kind of like a mechanic would with a car. Like you treat the engine as a different problem than brakes, than rotors, than steering column, than gas tank. Like every one of those you handle differently. And that's how you have to treat the inner game. It's like someone will say, I'll say, what's your biggest struggle? And someone's like, oh, my headspace. And I go, okay, what part of it? Because there's like 40. Like, are we talking about binge eating? Are we okay, cool. Well, there's 4 reasons for binge eating. So is this restriction? Is this an identity? Is this hunger? Like where, like, and that's how we have to handle this.
Yeah, no, dude, I love that. The fact you said it, you hit the nail on the head with when you said it's not a matter of time, it's a matter of awareness, right? And not only like, oh, not just be aware of your binge eating, but like start to understand where it's coming from, why it's happening, right?
Yep.
And treat it for like its single part, not
Mm-hmm.
the whole. I feel like so many people, and like I'm running a challenge right now in my Facebook community, and we asked what their biggest problem was when it comes to weight loss, and like 80% of the people who submitted a form said consistency. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, which part of consistency do you mean?
Yeah. It's the same thing because like even on consistency, there's so many layers. Is it the plan's unsustainable, so it's impossible to be consistent?
Yeah.
Is it that you have sabotaging mechanisms, so every time you're 3 days consistent, life magically happens? Is it
Yeah.
like your identity is someone who's not consistent, so every time you are consistent, it's a threat to your identity, so you unconsciously throw off the consistency? Like so many levels to this thing.
Yeah. And that's the funny thing as it when you pinpoint it, when you pinpoint the actual like
Mm-hmm.
part that is struggling, you become aware of it and you implement a very simple like
Right.
solution for it instead of trying to continue to cover it with
Yep.
a like with a fucking
Mm-hmm.
unsustainability or change everything and feel
Yeah.
miserable while doing it. It becomes like, oh, that was it.
Well,
That's the one thing I missed.
right. Well, and this is why people still don't understand. Like a lot of times, like the more not you don't need more time, you need more awareness. What I mean by that is like if you walked into your house and your dog was on the ceiling, your awareness around gravity would be instantly changed.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You've known gravity for what? I know it's a dumb analogy, but hear me out. Like if you've known gravity, like how old are you, Jonah?
I'm 26.
Okay, so you've known gravity is what it is for 26 years. But if you came home and Blue was walking around on the ceiling like no big deal, you don't need another 26 years of new of Blue walking around to realize gravity is different. In a moment of awareness, you would go, gravity is not what I thought it was.
Yeah.
It's that same kind of thing. Like if you think you have to starve yourself to lose weight and you all of a sudden eat more and lose weight, something magical is going to happen inside your brain. It's going to be like God snapped his fingers because you had a irrefutable proof of awareness that you cannot unsee. We see this in every other area in our life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I mean by we don't need more time. We need more awareness. The mind is a record of the past because of what your history looks like. So if, like, for example, if every time you've eaten Snicker bars, you've binged on the whole bag because we're almost to Halloween. So if right now you're like freaking out because you're going to have a cauldron of Snicker bars and you're going to binge eat the whole thing. Well, what happens if I say, I want you to go take one of those Snicker bars, go down the street to your friend's house and eat it. Now there's nothing to binge on because you're away from the cauldron of Snickers bars. Then you come back home. Your brain's going to be freaking out because you ate the Snicker bar and didn't know, and it doesn't know the cauldron wasn't there.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you didn't binge and your brain's like, whoa, wait. We have control now?
Yeah.
Wait a second. We have control now? Then you do it again and again and again. And then all of a sudden you lost weight that month because you ate one mini Snicker bar, 150-calorie Snicker bar a day. So you lost weight. Then all of a sudden your brain has irrefutable history that it has control. Because if every time you've eaten Snickers, you blew it and like ate like an asshole. Now you've done it where you like went to the gas station, got a Snickers bar and came home and ate it. You have nothing to binge on, but your brain doesn't know that. Your brain just knows, oh, we have history and irrefutable proof and awareness that we have control that we didn't think we had. Then you'll lose weight. Then your brain's like, oh. That's what happens.
Yeah, it's so true. And again, this is why I love listening to you because you articulate this in such a fantastic way. Like in my head, the way I understand it, the way I coach it as well is helping people become aware of the decisions that they're making that they're not paying attention to, right? Because they're used to it, right? There's three parts to a behavior. There's the trigger, behavior, reward. And once you start understanding the reward is like, well, I'm going to relieve stress, or I just really enjoy the taste or whatever. But then you like go through that whole process and you feel like shit because your history has said you binge on this, and yeah, it may be solving some sort of problem in the get-go, but afterwards you're stressed for multiple days, you feel sick, you don't feel good about yourself, right? And then as you start to like rewire that process
Yeah.
and change the stimulus where you actually understand the way to start controlling, and you start changing the wiring in your brain to expect something different, and then you start generating that belief, it's like, holy shit, like
Yeah.
I'm not like doomed. There's not anything wrong with me. No,
Right.
I just genuinely addressed the one or two problems that kept you stuck.
Yeah.
I've had a client work with me for, this is her fourth month, and she's in her 50s.
Mm,
Binge ate her entire life.
mm.
Her entire life. The last 4 months, she has not binge ate once. And the only thing
It's
we worked
amazing.
on that entire time was building awareness around why she was binge eating,
Mm,
when it happened, how it happened, and what were the scenarios that would make her feel like she lost control.
mm-hmm.
And all we did was, like, I didn't tell her to avoid those things. I didn't
Yep.
tell her to stop eating those foods. I asked her to communicate either to me or to herself how those situations were making her feel, what was going on in her head. And just the act of slowing down, and like
Mm-hmm.
that's why I love food journaling. Food journaling is so powerful.
Powerful.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, it's amazing. And journaling in general is powerful, but she just gave herself that second to just think, like, allow her thoughts to slow down in front of her, and she's like, oh, I genuinely don't want this. I learned
Yeah.
this behavior from when I was a kid, and I use this for soothing aspects instead of actually addressing the root cause. And by
Mm-hmm.
practicing that, we didn't completely get rid of binging. Like, she still had the urge, she still had it, because changing
Sure.
behaviors is pretty difficult. But
Mm-hmm.
because she was far more aware and she gave herself the space to actually process, in those moments, she was able to catch herself and be like,
Right.
"Whoa, I don't actually value this. I
Yeah.
don't actually want
100%.
this." Right? And because of that, she's down 11 pounds. And
Mm-hmm.
she's not even dieting. It's
Mm-hmm.
just allowing herself to have foods when she wants to,
Yep.
and say no when she doesn't want to, and
Yeah.
give her the autonomy, the agency, and the control to do those things. Once you
Absolutely.
understand that, like, that doesn't only apply to binge eating, it applies to consistency issues, self-sabotage, anything with
It
this.
well,
Once we
it also
understand.
well, it also applies to outside of fitness too, right?
Yeah.
Like you know
Oh,
how
dude, seriously.
like now, like in the same way she took a binge eating, she literally did this. Like if you on the video, I have a remote in my hand. What she took was, instead of freaking out about the binge eating, she's holding it up like an item, like, huh, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Like, huh, let's look at it from all these angles objectively. Oh, that's what that button does. Interesting. Oh, wow, I restrict food and I want to binge on. Interesting. Like she's like looking at it like it's a diagram, or it's like it's an item she's studying. And then now getting all these realizations, and without like going to extremes, it's almost really logical. It's like, well, maybe I should think about what like I'm feeling before I do the thing, right? But
Yeah.
now what happens when she goes to that relationship with her husband and they fight? She's going, huh, he said this, how is this making me feel right now? Interesting. But
Yes.
but then I feel this way. I want to be angry, but like he's got a point. Interesting. Or like let's say she goes to a situation at work and the boss isn't communicating, being an asshole. She's like, huh, this is interesting. Why is he acting like that? And like, yeah, that's what she's doing. Like for those
Mhm.
that aren't watching, if they aren't watching the video, I'm holding up a remote and I'm looking at it, like I'm putting it on like I'm spinning around like I'm studying it. But that's literally what this is training your brain to do under emotionally charged situations. But it's really hard to do that if you don't do the inner work. Hence, dieting from the inside out.
Dude, I tell this to my assistant coach all the time, because she's a relatively newer coach, and she has a lot of passion. She has a lot of excitement. She tends to get down on herself when her clients aren't immediately losing weight, right?
Right.
And that relationship that we can create with someone to just slow down and
Mm-hmm.
objectively look at an event, not only in their weight loss journey, but how it applies to other aspects, we make people,
Mm-hmm.
just better versions of themselves, because they're no longer reacting the way they have impulsively. They slow down and look and learn to understand, look at it from all angles. And once we disconnect the actual problem from
Yeah.
ourselves, like, you're not a bad person for enjoying food. You're not
Right.
a bad person for any of that, right? There's no good or bad. You attach it to yourself and you tie
Mm-hmm.
in your own worth to it. The second you
Yep.
detach from it and look at it for what it is, and it's away from you, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I don't I don't actually believe this. I don't actually have to fulfill this. I can actually make a much
Yeah.
more powerful, much more aligned decision.
Yeah.
everything gets easier. You start making more decisions that are going to benefit you. And this is where I believe motivation is actually created,
Yeah,
right?
100%. Well, I mean, with what you just said, how do you escape a jail you don't know you're trapped in, right? Part of gaining power over your patterns is you have to get out of the pattern. Like imagine, like this is a weird example. I'm wearing a hat right now. Imagine if I thought my hat was my skin.
Oh
Like
God.
imagine if I thought my hat was actually part of Jared, right? Versus like it's not. I can take it off. So much of the people's unconscious patterns, this is why sabotage is so prevalent, is because you don't realize, you think it's part of you. You think you're not separate from it. You have to, half of getting on the other side of sabotage and is to break away from the pattern and realize it's a hat you can take off. It's like, oh, it's not me, it's the thing. It's
Yeah.
not me that's the problem, it's the pattern that's the problem. Now it takes the guilt away, now it takes the shame away, now it takes you from being like I'm the problem to, oh, this thing is the problem, this thing I learned when I was a kid. Oh, so it's not my fault, but it's not my responsibility. I'm gonna take the hat off. It goes back to that, because you cannot escape what you don't know you're trapped inside of. You know what I mean? This is why most
Yeah.
people are stuck inside their own heads and they think it's them, but it's not. It's not your fault. It's something else. It's something that got put into place when you were defenseless. But now that you're made aware because you're listening to this podcast, now it is your responsibility to fix it. This is where the inner game and the inner work comes in.
There's 3 words, as I've been working with Christy Campbell, my coach, that she's helped really instill. Like she's like, what are your core values? You know, because if all else fails, you fall back on these things. And I've written like 10 lists, because like you write one word down, but then like it could apply to 50 other words, and it's just like holy shit, right? But I've been able to boil it down to it. If I have to take everything that I teach people, everything that like we're kind of dissecting, right? Addressing the root cause, it all comes down to ownership. Owning the fact that you either don't know what you don't know, or that you need to slow down and address things a little bit more practically instead of irrationally, right? Because once you own it, you then start to empower yourself to take the action you need for yourself, not for anyone else, right? Just because my client struggles with binge eating and now she's finding success doesn't mean that that's the path you need to go down, right? You may need different action steps, but from the ownership to the empowerment to create the freedom that most people want to live, right? We all want to be free from being guilty, ashamed of how we look, how we feel, and of our food. We want to be able to eat and eat what we want, feel healthy, feel satisfied, but not like be an asshole to ourselves, you know? Like, oh man, I'm gonna open a rabbit hole if I start thinking about the body positivity movement, and we could probably talk about that for hours. But no,
I have a very, if you ever do, I have a very interesting perspective on it.
Oh man, okay, put a pin in that, because I do want to talk about that. But once we understand, okay, I don't know what I don't know. I know I need to address the specific part of my vehicle that I haven't been. And then once you start addressing it, like you understand, like this is much more valuable right now than weight loss is. The freedom that you want to be happy, healthy, and in control is waiting for you. The second you let go of the other bullshit that's in your head, right? That's why I love talking about this stuff. Like it gets, I'm literally shaking of how excited I am right now, because this is so simple. It's so simple when you learn to look at it the way you need to see it. We know a shit ton about nutrition and fitness, but macros does not work well for someone who's super compulsive about their food, or someone who self-sabotages, you know. And like you said, not very many coaches know how to coach it, unless you've been through it, unless you know how to help that person come to the decision themselves. It's not just, we're not here to simply be dictators and say just fucking eat less or stop eating that, you stupid shit. That's not the game. I mean, I'm sure there's coaches out there that thrive off of that. Cool. But that's not me, because I'm not here for a temporary success. I'm here to see results that last for good. That's the end goal for me. It's like, I don't need you to be my client forever. I need you to feel good about yourself so you can live this life and pass it to others.
I'm avidly against career clients.
Seriously, it drives me nuts. I don't talk about Octavia and all that shit too, but man, I tell this to all my people who sign on with me. Like, I hate wasting time. And I'm not here to waste your time. I'm here to help you get results, but it's going to be through the means of understanding yourself better than you ever have before. And we're not here to lose weight right now. If you lose
Mhm.
weight while we're addressing these things, great. But until we address these, we're going to have to that's what we're going to practice.
Yep.
But ultimately, it's going to lead to the success that
Yep.
you truly want, right?
For sure.
Oh man, I'm getting so excited to talk about this, and I completely
Mhm.
forgot the question I was going to ask you because of it. But
I don't know either. I don't know what you're gonna ask me.
that's okay. That's all right. Well, with that being, I guess I do kind of want to poke the bear with the body positivity movement. And since you brought it up, I have nothing against it. I just don't like the approach,
Mhm.
but I want to explain that a little bit more. But I'm curious to know your take on it since I
So
kind of touched it.
where the thing with body positivity, the movement we're talking about,
Yes.
um, actually, let me put it this way. A lot of times, if you notice a lot of issues with a lot of issues are with, you'll notice movements, right? Movements can be great, but if you look at a lot of the the trendy movements, that's where there's a lot of extremism in big movements
Yeah.
versus there's a dichotomy in there that is where the sweet spot is. But with most movements, it's where people get fucking crazy with a lot of them. So for example, here's my thing with the body positivity or healthy at any size. I think people are ending up on one spectrum or the other, which is
Hmm.
inappropriate. I think people either are body dysmorphic freaks of like, I have to like, and they're psychopaths about like every ab vein has to show, and if I'm not 3% body fat, or if I don't weigh 120 pounds, then I'm a worthless piece of shit. I have to be a certain size. I have to be a psychopath with this stuff. Okay, that's wrong. That's inappropriate. Then we have the other extreme where it's healthy at any size, which is a level of enabling bad behaviors. Because here's now, before everyone gets triggered about like, oh my gosh, Jared's fat shaming. It's not at all. But there's a level of saying healthy at any size is like saying healthy with any stage of cancer, right? If we
Yeah.
know on paper, one of the biggest reasons for death and not living to see your goddamn grandbabies is because of obesity, heart disease, cholesterol, blood pressure, and all these health related things because you're extremely overweight, then we cannot say healthy at any size. That does not exist. That's like saying healthy with any disease. When like if I said I have stage 4, let's say I'm 30 years old with stage 4 cancer, and we say no, healthy at any stage of cancer. That's wrong and inaccurate.
Hmm.
So saying healthy at any size is inappropriate and blatantly wrong. Now, I'm not now don't now here's where my thing is. That's not to say there's a magic size. That's not to say everyone should be a stick or look like a Barbie doll. That's not to say we should shame people for their choices of how they want to look aesthetically. That's not it at all. The thing that I like about body positivity is where it's up to each person's discretion of what they want to look like. If you want to be 450 pounds and die 15 years early, more power to you, but don't say that's healthy. Don't say that's like that is like you're just as healthy as the person who eats right and trains consistently, that's going to live their full life. That's what's inappropriate. um and that's the things, that's why I'm not saying is certain sizes are beautiful and others are not. I'm not saying overweight people aren't beautiful or don't have worthiness. That's not what I'm saying at all. I think that it goes back to that dichotomy, and that middle ground is there should be that if that makes sense. I know it's kind of a sensitive and awkward subject to get into, but there's not a magic size, there's not a magic aesthetic. Everyone doesn't have to be a certain figure, but saying that you're healthy at any size when you weigh 700 pounds, and trying to like build a culture around that, I think is inappropriate, because it's not true. Just like, again, if I say healthy at any stage of cancer is not true. But just because someone, let's say, has cancer doesn't mean they're any less worthy or any less deserving or whatever the case is. But I think a lot of people who struggle with this is going to offend some people. I think there's a level of people who struggle with, let's say, being consistent and showing up for themselves. And instead of doing the work to be the better version of themselves and work hard on themselves, they say, well, big is beautiful, body positivity, and they stay enabling their own bad behaviors because of their own lack of development of oneself. Because part of because actually the unpopular truth is loving yourself is working on yourself and not accepting your shitty standards. Like, yes, part of loving yourself is self-acceptance, but then where does self-acceptance turn into self-enabling? You know what I mean? If I
Yeah.
enable bad behavior of like of what, like, let's say I don't discipline I don't have kids, but let's say I let my kids beat up on other kids. Blatantly wrong. My kid is hurting another child. If I say, oh, that's just who he is, that's not okay. If someone's abusive and I just say, oh, that's just who he is, that's enabling the bad behavior. So to say, oh, that's just who I am, I've always been this way, that's enabling that bad behavior. You are not going after your potential. You stopped growing. Part of loving yourself is challenging yourself and working on yourself and not accepting that's just who I am. Now, don't take that though to the other extreme and say, oh, I'm a worthless piece of shit if I'm not a size 3. So that's my thoughts on body positivity and healthy at any size.
Dude, I think so. Even though it may feel like a bit of a left curveball, I still think it's connected, right?
Sure.
Because ultimately, what we started talking about is like, hey, you do not need to do unrealistic bullshit to be healthy, to lose weight,
Right.
right? And then it's still like identifying body positivity as it's the result of extremes, as people being told that they're inadequate at their size, right? They're unworthy, they're undeserving, they're lazy, right? So that this movement has been created to enable the positivity of loving your body at every size, right? I'm not against it. However, like you said, when it starts enabling the shitty behaviors, right? Taking care of yourself does not always mean treating yourself to everything that's going to kill you faster, right? Like that's like that doesn't. Sorry, go ahead.
I think there's a lot of people, though this is not everyone. I think there are a lot of people who are very loud about the body positivity. That's like, I love the fact that I weigh this much, or I love the fact of how big I am. And they say that, but then if you actually look behind closed doors, they're actually secretly not happy because they know they're not living up to their potential. Again, those listening, don't take this out of context. We're not saying you have to be a certain size. This is not fat shaming. There's none of that. But I think a lot of people who are very vocal about the very far extreme. It's like, I mean, to be honest, like, not to bring this up, it's like politics. You got the assholes on the far right, you got the assholes on the far left. Then the majority of people are in the middle, just to the left of center, just to the right of center, if we want to break it down into left and right. But the assholes, I don't care what you believe politically. If you are a far right extremist, you're a piece of shit. If you're a far left extremist, you're a piece of shit. Like,
because there's no wiggle room, right?
Like, and it's extrapolate. Nothing good works in extremes. Right.
No, it doesn't.
So that's why, like, with what I was trying to get with the body positivity stuff and the healthy at any size, is a lot of people are treating it like politics and they're at the extremes versus like there's a dichotomy. Imagine if you did extremism with every single thing in your life. You either are up your partner's ass 24/7 and never left each other's side, or you go years without seeing each other. There's a lot of middle ground there. You know, what if you either save every ounce of your income where your lights get shut off because you're hoarding your money, or let's say you go bankrupt and blow all your credit cards and you spend frivolously. Well, either one of those is bad, but there's a middle ground, right? So everything good has a dichotomy. Like, one of the best leadership books I've ever read is by Jocko Willink. It's called The Dichotomy of Leadership. And one of the premises he talks about is, where's the ground between over leading, where it's called micromanaging and not trusting your team, versus under leading, where you're like, that's not my job, that's my team's job. Right? It's like, where's the dichotomy in there? So everything good has a dichotomy, including this game of acceptance and grace, including having a goal, releasing outcome of goal. It's the same thing here.
Yeah. And all that to say is, like, there is always a middle ground. There is always a middle ground, right? We're not saying, you or I are not saying that you have to lose weight to be healthy. If you truly are happy with where you're at, that's fine. Like, be happy. Right. But don't impose that on those around you.
Well,
don't
but
force that.
Right about now, someone is going, well, just because you're skinny doesn't mean you're healthy. It's like, we just shot to the other extreme.
Yeah.
We're not living on these polarities. We're living in the middle.
Yeah. It's about identifying what you truly value, right? Just as what we were talking about before. Like, once we address what your true problems are, and we implement the system to improve that, and you notice how everything else around you gets a lot better, it gets a lot simple, you start sounding more like yourself. You start listening to your own intuition. Things start making a little bit more sense. You get to hear your own voice when these polarizing opinions come your way, and you get to look at it just the same way as you were looking at the remote. Instead of connecting it to yourself and how it applies to you right now, you get to look at it, examine, like, that's an interesting take, right? Like, I don't want everyone to be super skinny and athletic and fit.
Right.
I don't want everyone to be super overweight and unhealthy. I want them to be happy with who they are. I want them to find what makes them feel like themselves. And that's it. I'm not here to impose my agenda. I'm here to impose your own agenda on yourself. So if you
Yeah.
come to me, say you want to be a little bit healthier, you want to fit into a bikini for summer, great. I'm going to do everything in my power to help you. But if we go along the
Mm-hmm.
journey and you realize that that's not the goal anymore, guess what? We get to pivot. We get to focus
Yeah.
on what you want to focus on, because most of the time
100%.
that's what happens,
Yeah,
right? I,
absolutely.
I want to look better for the beach. And then they go on this process and they start realizing, oh, I feel a lot better. And I'm not focusing on how I look anymore. I'm not focusing on any of that bullshit that what I said. I just want to
Mm-hmm.
continue to feel happy and healthy. I'm like,
Right.
great. Let's keep practicing what we've been doing and let that be the
100%.
focus. Like one of my clients, or I guess she's my assistant coach's clients, she signed on with us because she wanted to lose weight for her high school reunion.
Mm.
And we're like, great, let's sign you on. And as we were going through, we identified there's a lot of rough relationships with her food, a lot of inconsistency issues, And as we started addressing those, she was like, "Holy shit!" And she started
Oh
like she
yeah.
fell in love with lifting heavy,
Good.
right? And she was like, "I don't want to run. I want
Yeah.
to." I want to do this thing that makes me feel good. I want to chase this feeling instead of
Mm-hmm.
trying to prove to people that I'm skinny 40 years after we
Mm-hmm.
graduated high school.
Right.
Her high school reunion was this last weekend.
Yeah.
And she was a little nervous about it, but she told Karen, my assistant coach, she's like, I could probably bench press all those people in there.
That's awesome.
And
Well,
she was happy about that.
well, the thing is though, like, because at the end of the day, everything you did was based off of like, okay, what do you want?
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. This is why I'm not in the business of like trying to convince people anything, or even
No.
like trying to change the paradigm of healthy at any size or the extremism side, because those people are not trying to get my help. But the problem, and this is how we dissect this. Someone comes into our network and in our ecosystem, and they're like, well, I really want this, but I feel like I should be content because I feel like I should be healthy at any size. And I go, well, pause. What do you want though? And then we have that conversation about like, well, truthfully, there's no healthy at any size, because if you weigh 450 pounds, you're going to die 15 years early. Like, do you want to die 15 years early? No. Okay. Well, you don't have to shame yourself into changing. If anything, like you change, like why do parents discipline their kids? It's because they love them and want more for them. If a parent's disciplining you because they love beating you, we have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But good discipline comes out of because your parents want the best for you because they love you. It's the same thing when we raise our standards and change our actions. It's not because I'm a piece of shit because I'm fat. It's because I'm not living up to who I should be. I'm a shitty example to my kids. They deserve more from me. I deserve more out of me. I deserve to live a happier life. That's all positive things.
Yeah.
Like Jonah, you deserve to be happy. You deserve to be successful. You deserve abundance in your life because you're a good person. That's not me saying, Jonah, you're a piece of shit because you have long hair, like, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you're just jealous.
I love your long hair. I think you need new photos because all your photos are short. But anyway, but that's what I'm saying is if we have a client that's like, well, I want this, but I feel like I should be like this. I'm like, you're leading into a societal narrative. What do you want? Well, I just want to be able to like be comfortable in my own skin and be able to play beach volleyball without worrying about what's jiggling. But I also want to be able to have birthday cake with my kids. I go, cool, let's do that.
Yeah.
They're not mutually exclusive. That's the problem with all these movements is they act like they're mutually exclusive and they're not.
It's this or that, not this and that.
You can have everything you want. You literally can have, it's like, I mean, across the board, you can have everything you want.
So, and, I think it's so funny when we're talking about stuff like this. And like I said, I think it's still all correlated, right? Dieting from the inside out literally allows you to understand yourself better than you ever have before so that you can have what you truly desire. Now, when anyone else has told you that you should want, right? When you feel better and listen to you, you get to make the decision. And I always find like you can't, the expression, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Because I feel like you can.
Yeah,
right.
100%. Eating a calorie deficit and you can lose weight on top of it.
Exactly. Right. Like you can literally have both. Right. These people who stand on their soapbox and say, just have more discipline and just burn it off, work it off. Like that's not a healthy relationship with anything. Right. There is a balance. There is a coexistence once you understand how to prioritize what you truly value.
That goes for everything though. Like imagine literally everything. Like one thing I'm trying to do a better job is my own balance of the goals that I have. Like I used to think I couldn't be a family man and like do stuff with my family because I own a business. But like I had a big revelation when Ed Milet was like, no, what if I said you can be a super success in your business and be a super success with your family and be a super success with your marriage and be a super success with your kids? What if like one doesn't cost the other? What if actually they're predicated on you being successful with all of them? Right. And
Yeah.
so like in the same token, what if like for those that are listening that have kids, what if I said you either have to have a great marriage and a shitty relationship with your kids, or you have to have a great relationship with your kids, but it's going to make your relationship with your husband shitty? Or what if I said you can go make a living at work, but then your home life is going to suck? But that's not how it works. We know our lives thrive with all of those being in place: your mental, your emotional, your physical, your spiritual, right? All of it. So it's the same thing. It's the same thing here. This is it all goes back to, it's an inner game issue.
Yeah. And it's all fucking connected. It is.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, you just need another diet. You just need a fucking another workout. You just need to have more discipline. You need to have more willpower. No, you just need to listen to you. And
Mm-hmm.
it's hard when you've been telling yourself the same stories over and over and over again
Sure.
that aren't necessarily your stories, or you've been having other people tell you and imposing their will
Yep.
onto you that you accept it as truth.
Right.
When in reality, carbs don't make you fat, rice doesn't have gluten in it, and you can fucking eat cake and still lose weight and feel happy
Yep.
if you truly want that, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's the whole thing, is understanding, like, understand yourself, make things fucking simpler, and address the root cause instead of just putting band-aids on it. This process starts to open up, and then you
Easily.
want to show up for yourself more,
Mm-hmm.
right? To your standard, not to anyone
Mm-hmm.
else's. You don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. And the more you force yourself to do it, the more resentment you're going to build, the
Yep.
harder you're going to make the inner game. It's just a fucking vicious cycle. When in reality, the game somewhere, it's not black or white. It's gray. It's very gray.
Everything's gray.
So gray. It's ridiculous. Like, oh,
100%.
dude, I could talk for hours about this, but this has already been an hour, and I know you're a busy guy.
You're good, dude. You're good.
So, this is amazing. Seriously. Like, even if it kind of got, I still think they're very correlated. It's all connected no
They
matter
are.
what.
They are 100%.
And I want more people to hear you, learn from you, because I continue to learn from you. I continue to try to emulate what you teach, because I mean, you teach exactly what I'm working to teach for my other people. Because I had to learn it for myself.
Sure.
And the second it clicks for someone, it becomes so much simpler. So, how
Mm-hmm.
do people find you?
So it depends what you're into, right? So, so if you're into like the shorter form content, I post every day, multiple times a day on the short platforms like Instagram, TikTok. Both of those are at Real Jared Hamilton. Give me a follow there. If you like the longer, deeper stuff, go follow my YouTube and podcast. My podcast is called Dieting from the Inside Out. It's on all the platforms. YouTube is youtube.com/Jared Hamilton, and all of the videos of my podcasts are on that platform as well. So if you like Joe Rogan style, where you just watch your shit versus just listen, that's there. And then I have a dope community, like, because I think everyone needs a community in their back pocket of support. So I actually have a dope Facebook community called Fat Loss Simplified. Just search Fat Loss Simplified on Facebook and whatnot. So, and then just shoot me a message, say, hey, I listened on Jonah's podcast. That was dope, or that was terrible. One of the two.
Okay, don't come after us. We promise
Right.
we are here to help.
That's right. So
awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for your time. I'm so glad
thank you
we
for
were able to
having
do
me,
this.
dude. This is good. This is
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. I love impulse decisions like this, because I was like, I'm still
Easily.
kind of shaking from our conversation, because it's like, holy crap, like, someone gets me.
Yeah, right. I feel you.
Awesome. Well, we'll have to do this again. Take it easy, man. I'll see
Cool.
you. I'll see you
Love you.
soon. Love you
Peace.
too.